would say marketing is all about being curious about the consumer. The consumer's psyche and the consumer journey is the most important part of marketing. Using data to drive your storytelling and to create an engaging story for the consumer is what I have understood marketing to be. Jumping from media to marketing is almost like jumping from a pond into an ocean, right? Because marketing, then you realize it involves so many different aspects of the business.
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with IndieFolio. Today we have Shawn Chandy with us, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Paragon Footwear. Shawn's got an incredible experience spanning over 2 decades where he's worked with some very interesting companies. He talks about his entire journey, how he switched from advertising to the brand side, and also speaks about a lot of advice for young marketers. Hey Shawn, thanks for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Kavan. Thanks for having me, and pleasure to be here.
I think we've rescheduled this quite a few times, so I'm finally glad that we are here, and I think it's my bad, not yours. Um, I wanted to first ask you what actually led you to join marketing, right? You've been in the agency side, you've led multiple brands in various domains. When is it that you realize that this is a space you want to build a career in?
Marketing is something I kind of felt I have the relevant skills to, my aptitude, so to say. So, interestingly, when I was in school, and typically in the ninth or 10th standard stream to take, science, arts, commerce, and those days when I was in, graduating from school, your choices were limited, right? Today, you still have many more options. Then you basically had three streams of education. I actually wanted to be an engineer. I come from a family; they're all engineers. My grandfather was an engineer, so I was very kicked about being an engineer, and told me that you don't have the aptitude to become an engineer. You're not good at numbers. So what was I good at? I was good at communication. Language and communication is something that I was good at from an aptitude point of view, and even generally, I was quite outgoing that way, and I was very quite social. I could socialize with people very easily. I loved reading. I loved I loved movies, music, etc. So I felt like I have a little bit of a creative bent of mind, and do this as a take this up as a career. So that led to but ironically, I got into commerce. I took commerce and that I think was a mistake in retrospect. But anyway, all's well that I basically chose commerce, and it was not because I loved. I mean, like I told you, I was my I was not great at numbers, and at that point of time in your life, you really don't know what you want to do, right? You have and people. There's a lot of external pressure and voices keep telling you. People keep telling you, giving you free unwanted advice as to what you should do with your life. So, if you're not good taking science, at least take commerce. Don't go for arts. Arts is for duffers, and those kind of things. Biases towards arts. And looking back, I would have gladly taken arts as opposed to commerce. But anyway, eventually it worked out in the end. And but when I graduated from college and throughout college, and I did my commerce, graduation from HR college in Mumbai. Throughout college, I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, and I that kept building my confidence in my communication skills, in my public speaking abilities, which I anyways had a lean to. So and a lot of other marketing, so-called marketing related events. In college, I used to participate in a lot of these activities which are leaning towards marketing. So my plan was that after graduation, after BCom graduation, I would do my MBA and specialize in marketing. So that part I was very clear of. That okay, this is what I want to do. In between, I kind of probably dabbled with the notion of becoming a CA, but I knew I didn't have the brains for it or the interest to actually pursue that line, because you need to be a little bit more passionate about that. So this came naturally to me, and that's how I, purposefully went. So I didn't exactly stumble into marketing, but I purposefully went into it. Yes, I did stumble into media planning, which is not something I was aware of, or which is not something I was familiar with. I literally met my, it was like an overnight decision because I met my one of my seniors, my batchmate seniors, MBA batchmate seniors, who used to live close by, and he said that क्या कर रहा है तू हो गया ग्रेजुएशन चल आजा come to rediffusion for an interview. As in, I've heard of rediffusion, but as in, what is this? As in, I mean, I talk about advertising. No, no, no. This is media planning. What is media planning? अरे तू आ ना देख लेते हैं कर ले कुछ. I went for the interview. They liked me for whatever reason because two of my seniors were already in rediffusion, the media division, and that's how my career took off. And I actually fell in love with media planning, and I discovered a fondness for number crunching, which is media planning is a lot of number crunching. And those days, we didn't have many of the tools that today's media planners have. So a lot of it was manual work on Excel and formulas and stuff like that. So, and from there, it was a great platform for me to jump to the next level, which is go into marketing. Because as you may have interviewed many marketeers, but and agency guys always have this kida to go to the client side because the grass on the other side is always greener, right? So you always feel, साला client तो बहुत ऐश कर रहा है यार. He's making me work late nights and weekends, and he's enjoying himself, he or she, and I'm busting my ass here. So uh, you always feel that way, but that's not true. So after 4 odd years of being in media planning, I got an opportunity to jump on the marketing side, and then my marketing journey began with Aditya Birla Retail.
Fantastic. This brings a very important question. I think a lot of people who are in their 12th are confused like you still today. And a lot of the confusion actually comes because people are very confused what marketing is today, because conventionally it was creative communications, you do ads with celebrities. Today is very data driven, there is a lot of marketing technology jargons, and people are like, okay, do I do this if I'm analytical, or do I do this if I'm creative? What should be my core? So you've been through that confusion, plus you're a CMO now, you've had a long career. What's the right mindset I should have to know that I'm a good fit for marketing?
So, good question, Kavan, because one of the things that people think of when okay, there are a lot of misconceptions about marketing still. I mean, when I talk to some old timers, I'm in marketing. Oh, you have a lot of targets. You have to travel a lot. You have to deal with so many clients. I said, no, 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 no. That is you're referring to sales. So that's confusion between sales and marketing still remains, and I still get asked about it. Like you have to achieve numbers and all that. Yeah, I have to achieve numbers, but not sale number, not revenue numbers. I mean, eventually, all marketing efforts have to achieve revenue numbers. But anyway, and the other end of the spectrum is this thought that marketing is advertising. Marketing equals advertising. So you see an ad on TV, you say, "Arey, yeah, this is marketing." So a lot of youngsters, and since you mentioned, 12th standard or maybe people who are in the undergrad uh, phase of their life, they would think that, "Arey, marketing means creating great content and advertising and influence." Now it's all about influencer marketing, and I will, shoot videos, and that's all fine. But I think at the core of it, and if I have to summarize my like marketing, looking at my career, my experience, and it's not like I'm an expert or I'm a Philip Kotler type, but still, as a person with about 2 decades of experience in marketing and media, I would say marketing is all about being curious about the consumer. The consumer's psyche and the consumer journey is the most important part of marketing. How you are able to connect with the consumer, whichever category you're in, whichever it could be B2C, it could be B2B, it could be through any kind of platform, um, being able to being putting the consumer at the heart of everything and in the center of everything, and making your communication relevant to that person is what marketing is all about. There is, and you will need a lot of obviously data because we are in a very heavily data driven world, and unfortunately there's sometimes I feel there's too much data. You will need obviously creativity because there's a lot of storytelling, because you can't just flash data at consumers, right? Consumers don't, you have to understand consumers. Who are consumers? You are human beings. We are human beings. We relate to stories, right? Which is why storytelling is very important. Using data to drive your storytelling and to create an engaging story for the consumer is what I've understood marketing to be. And everything that is in between, like, whether it's media planning or it is digital marketing, ATL, BTL, Falana, all that, everything is part of that process. So it's not any one thing which actually you can makes that kind of it's not like only digital or only one particular medium or one particular platform which actually does the trick.
Understood. I think makes sense. I think people generally have a very one-dimensional approach to marketing, and I think the moment they kind of dig deeper, they'll understand you can actually be anything in various areas, and you'll find a fit as long as you said, you're curious about customers. I think that's fundamental. I wanted to now ask you about jumping from agency to brand side. A lot of people recommend that start your career with an agency because it'll give you a lot of exposure to various things at in 1 2 years. But then I also see a lot of people struggle where they are like, okay, how do I actually make a jump to a brand manager, right? Do I need to do an MBA, or do I have to do something else? Like, how did you do it, and what was the story behind that? If you can kind of share some insights.
So again, this was not something that I consciously chose. And again, I was lucky in many ways. I was not. So let me be clear. I was not unhappy in the agency life. I actually liked the agency life. In fact, I miss the agency life to some extent even today, because the vibrancy, the bonding that you create, develop in working with your colleagues, etc. The culture in agencies is very different from most corporates.
Mhm.
So, way back when I was in Group M at that point in time. I was working for Maxis, which is today called Waymaker, and I was happy. It's not like I was unhappy with the system, or I was dying to jump out of that and do something else. But yes, somewhere in the back of the mind, I had the feeling that no, I'm doing well here. I'm successful, but in my own for my experience that I have at that point in time. But I probably could become a at some point become a brand manager and maybe a marketing head, etc. It was somewhere in the back of the mind. And so when I got fortunately for me, one of my clients moved to Aditya Birla Retail, and she called me. We had a good working relationship, so she called me and said, "Would you like to join my team? I'm setting up a team to launch more supermarkets and more hypermarkets and etc." So that kind of triggered it, and I said, "Why not? Why not give it a shot? Maybe this is my path to becoming a senior marketing resource or whatever." And like so, I took my experience, whatever I'd learned in media, and ventured into this a larger. It's slow jumping from media to marketing is almost like jumping from a pond into an ocean, right? Because marketing, then you realize it involves so many different aspects of the business, and you will have to involve there's so many stakeholders that it's a much more complicated and complex game, and you are not just evaluated on what happens on a weekend when you release a press ad or a TV spot, or what GRP you've achieved through some TV campaign, but you have to actually drive ROI and effectiveness for the business. That's how you're judged. So anyway, that happened. I mean, to start with, it was at a junior level, so I was doing a lot of execution of retail marketing, etc.
The marketing's become a very mature field now, I believe so, and there are a lot of takers for it. And I may be somebody with 3 years of experience in an agency competing with somebody who's gone to an MBA college, maybe has zero experience, but has gone to, has gone and done some MBAs. So do I still stand a chance, or you as a CMO, when you're building a team, you look for folks with some pedigree in formal education?
Yeah, that's a good question, but it's 2003, actually MBA was not really criteria. Especially if you're on the servicing side of creatives. Creative co, anyways, MBA is not really required. It's pointless. But even for media planners and client servicing guys, MBA is not a must. It was good to have at that point of time. Today, of course, it's almost a norm for a marketing position. An MBA has become like almost like a basic qualification or a basic threshold. Which college, of course, every the bigger companies would prefer tier one, tier two. All that is you keep that aside. But MBA has become kind of a basic threshold to even for a fresher. Even if you want to
Hmm.
take an intern or a fresher, it's become that's the thing. Personally, if you ask me, I would say that I while MBAs are important, MBA is an important tool in your education, kind of, from an education point of view. I would give a lot of importance to experience of what a person has done over the last, this thing, whatever period of time that person has been working. That teaches you a lot, and there's nothing like practical experience, getting your hands dirty in doing various things in various parts of the business. And so I would give a slightly higher weightage to that. It also depends on what are you recruiting for. So if you're recruiting for a mid level role, then of course education and experience kind of balances out. But if you're recruiting for a fresher, then I guess in most cases, most companies would go for at least graduate plus a postgraduate degree, which will kind of because unfortunately in this country, let's be frank, graduate degree does not give you enough ammunition to succeed in the corporate world. I mean, that's an unfortunate fact, right? I mean,
Hmm.
we've all been there. At least with the postgraduate degree, the postgraduate degree being an MBA or some kind of diploma or whatever, um, gives you some kind of understanding of you know what happens in how to deal with larger business issues. you know um, till your graduation, whether it's commerce, science, or whatever arts, you still have a like too much of bookish knowledge.
Hmm.
I know for a fact that when I was at maybe an average student till the time till my graduation BCom, but I had 2 years experience after graduation, and then when I did my MBA after 2 years, I had a lot of practical experience, and I really did well because professors gave us a lot of practical experience and a lot of practical, empowered us a lot of practical knowledge, which went beyond books,
Hmm.
which is not something that you would, because in commerce and arts, whatever, there's a certain syllabus, there's certain books, and you need to get 60%. You usually have to memorize certain concepts or whatever, and that's about it, and just vomit it out. That's how our education system is, unfortunately. But MBA is obviously different. You do projects, etc. So, as a recruiter, coming back to that point, as a recruiter, at least for an entry level, I would rather take a person with a postgraduate degree or a diploma. If it's a mid level position and I'm looking, and a person has a graduate degree with some experience, relevant experience, then yes, I wouldn't mind doing that.
Understood. Understood. Thanks for breaking that down. You've had a career which spans many industries. And one thing I wanted to kind of touch upon was your time at Raymond. So it's a brand. I mean, I think the Complete Man is such a deep rooted thing. At least for me, I was in my formative years while growing up, and then Raymond was like everywhere, and this thing was playing quite a bit. So I wanted to know that you were there for almost a decade in, I think, multiple Raymond subsidiaries, if I'm not wrong. But any particular strategic decision or a campaign you were a part of, which was a big game changer for the brand's identity?
Yeah, so there were a couple of them. Actually, they were. It's not just a campaign. Campaigns were happening, on a regular basis in Raymond. I mean, Raymond does 2 or 3 big campaigns in a year. A lot of money is being spent on big media properties, etc. But I would say more in terms of initiatives. So I'll give an example of. It sounds simple, but it was actually a game changer, and it is still a game changer for Raymond, which is a garment exchange program. Okay, garment exchange sounds very simple, and what's the big deal? I mean, exchange programs run everywhere, right? And I mean, in the durable industry, it is just so common to
Mm,
do exchange, whether it's television, fridge, whatever, microwave, whatever. But something that we pioneered in Raymond, and I was very fortunate to be part of the team which actually led this initiative. Um, and we had to do a lot of legwork to convince all the stakeholders, franchisees, management, etc., that this can work. This was in 2016 that 2015 they ran a pilot, and 2016 we actually launched the first garment exchange program. Um, and that saw a massive spike in, at least mainly during the promo period, massive spike in sale of fabric, uh, and increase in footfalls, store
mm,
footfalls. The idea was very simple. You get your old garments to the store. In exchange, we give you vouchers which can be redeemed for free tailoring. So this was largely for the fabric business, wherein the challenges that the fabric business used to face and still faces is that not enough people want to stitch clothes, right? I mean, if you yourself, you're a young chap. I mean, you buy mostly ready-made. I don't know when's the
correct.
last time you stitched anything. If you ask anyone, when's the last time you stitched clothes, they would say at my if they are married, they would say at my wedding or at somebody else's wedding or whatever. So stitching is tailoring is not really in vogue. It's a lot of effort and a lot of challenges. So we won't get there right now, but this addressed a basic problem that how to encourage people to come into the Raymond shops, buy fabric, get it tailored, and tailoring cost is roughly 25-30% depending on where you stitch it. 25-30% of the garment making cost. So that being waived off, that added an incentive. Plus the fact that all these old garments are being donated to a worthy cause. So we they used to have a tie with Goonj. I believe they still do. Goonj, as you know, is one of the largest NGOs in terms of the way, channeling old garments and various stuff, the recycling stuff, refurbishing it. I'm not recycling is the wrong word. Refurbishing it for their programs. So they have a cloth for work program, as in they don't give it for free to any person. So they don't just take your clothes and just donate it or whatever. They make people, so people earn. So that's why cloth for
Mm,
work program. So we started with Goon. So the idea was that, okay, one is you're getting a financial benefit of um, you know discount, you
yeah.
know discount on your garment, and on the other hand, and without actually discounting it. So we are not discounting. We never sold any fabric on discount. Raymond has a strict policy not to discount fabric. So the discount was on tailoring. It's a value to the consumer, as well as it's an emotional benefit that you're doing something good for society. So I think the camp, if I remember correctly, the tagline was "Do good, feel good," that kind of thing. So and that kind of really, so it became a annual. The first year was so successful that everybody realized that no, this is actually driving business. It's good business, as well as is a good um, story for to show that Raymond is socially responsible. you
Right.
know so they repeat it every year, and it happens every year now, mainly for the fabric business. One year we even tried it for the apparel business, but it was more successful with the fabric textile business. So that is one campaign that really I talk about a lot. I'm especially proud of that.
Such an initiative. How is it validated, right? I mean, do you look at like revenue KPIs? Do you look at like store visits? How do you decide, oh, this was successful?
Yeah. So see, this is one of those things. The beauty of this program was, okay, let's say we do and we used to spend a lot of money on, say, cricket, IPL or World Cups or whatever. Now you blow up about maybe 20 crores on a campaign. Okay, what is the ROI on that? It's really difficult to calculate, because
Yeah.
of course you can measure it through secondary sale and revenue, etc. But it's a direct correlation is quite difficult, with any brand campaign. Whereas in this, the beauty of this program was that we could actually measure the ROI by saying, okay, this is the number of garments we've got, this is the spike in secondary sale, this is the increase in footfall. All the we had very like very specific KPIs, and we could actually measure those KPIs. So it's not some feel good like they always say, 50% of the market money is wasted. You don't know which half you know so
Right.
there was no wastage here. We were very clear that if you're investing so much in promoting this campaign, this is the kind of business that we've generated through this campaign. And over the period of time, because Raymond has a very robust CRM program, how many customers came back, like repeat customers, how do we win back, etc. We all, like, for example, 30% of the consumers who came for this program were new consumers, so we acquired 30% new consumers, and out of the 30%, almost 70% came back in 6 months. So I mean, these kind of stats and data actually prove that this campaign works, and that's the reason why they run it every year. So it's a very measurable, highly measurable campaign, which is why I'm especially, I talk about it a lot.
Great. I think it's always awesome to hear stuff like this from the marketing team because often I see a lot of pushback from brand marketers, on everything doesn't need to have a KPI. So I'm glad to hear that from you. I want to now shift gears to. Oh yeah, you were saying something.
No, I also wanted to add that the another KPI which I didn't mention, of course, footfall revenue is one thing, but also when you do brand tracks, and Raymond used to do regular brand tracks. So in those studies, it will be very clear that there is a spike in. It was to also aid in terms of certain parameters, like Raymond is socially responsible. Raymond is those kind of parameters will also come up, and it would also aid in brand awareness.
Understood. Understood. Fair enough. I want to now talk about where you are right now. What made you decide to kind of focus on the footwear industry?
So my my sister, she really pulls my leg, saying that I'm the Carrie Bradshaw of the family. Carrie Bradshaw is a character from Sex and the City who has tons of shoes. So she says that even before I joined Paragon, I had this love for shoes because I used to always say, what can men do with their wardrobe, right? You can accessorize it with shoes, maybe watches. I have a few watches also, and these are all basically two things, that clothes or ठीक है. So I would buy more shoes more often than clothes. But that's not the reason why I came to Paragon. Um I spent a lot of time in retail. So my journey started with Aditya Birla, then Samsonite, Raymond. So between these three companies, I spent about 15 odd years, 14 something years in lifestyle business, in lifestyle retail, and it was of course brands, but brand communication, but a lot of retail marketing and retail initiatives and lifestyle business, which is very different. TG premium, like SCCA, mid premium to super premium. Samsonite also went to luxury. Paragon presented a unique opportunity wherein we are actually a very distribution-led company. So it's almost like the FMCG business. We rely largely on distributors who then supply to dealers and so on and so forth. So I don't. We have a few exclusive retail stores, but largely it's distribution led. Also, it's very mass, right? I mean, our products start from for Paragon. We start from about 150, 200 bucks, less than 200 bucks, and goes up to about 600, 700 rupees. So from selling a shirt costing 2,000 bucks to selling footwear worth 200 rupees, it's a big jump, it's a big leap, and that presented an interesting challenge for me. um, I thought that this should be fun, you know um, dealing with a different audience, completely different mindset,
Yeah.
from whether it's a retailer, dealer, distributor, or and consumer. The consumer is very different. Like I've never, as a marketeer, actually appealed to this kind of or dealt with this kind of audience, which is extremely mass. I mean, we are talking about the working class, the Uber drivers or the vendors, the delivery boys, even people who are like factory workers. You know, these are the kind of, this is my core audience. Of course, we also have two other brands. So we have a brand called Ekin and Stimulus. Ekin is largely targeting the young people between 20 and 30 years, more urban. So so that's where the little bit of the fashion element is much more stronger there. But if you look at all our brands, we are basically in the value segment. We are not premium. So we are not competing with the likes of Nike, Adidas, Puma, or whatever.
Yeah,
Those brands don't even exist in our stratosphere. They are beyond a certain, because that's a different audience altogether. So this is what kind of prompted me to take this jump and take up this challenge.
fantastic. I want to know, so when you do shift from premium to mass, what's the biggest change you see in your marketing strategies, if you can highlight that?
So you have to completely change your approach. So you have to literally rewire your brain. You're no longer talking about spending big bucks on, for example, I'll give you, you would not think of taking up, we used to have these hoardings at Haji Ali in Mumbai, or on, Western Express Highway, or, Bandra flyover, whatever. I'm just giving Bombay examples because I'm from Mumbai, or for example, in Samsonite, it used to be airport advertising. Okay, so all that is not relevant because your TG is not there. Okay, and this is of course at a superficial level. When you dig deep, you understand that from a consumer point of view, and goes back to what I was talking about earlier, about being curious and being, keeping the consumer at the heart of everything. It's not easy to relate to those people. It takes some time. It takes some effort. See, we have been fortunate, or at least I've been fortunate enough to have the kind of opportunities I had, the education I've had, and we are largely an English speaking audience. So it's easy to relate to, like with Samsonite and Raymond was very easy. These are our, I'm a Samsonite user, or I'm a Raymond consumer. I could
Yeah,
think of myself, put myself in but to put myself in the shoes of a Paragon consumer is extremely difficult. And with a lot of, I mean, initially it was it took some time. It's been now 2 years for me in this company. So initial the first few months was quite challenging, because I would go to the market and they would say, these are the challenges, and I would like, really, I mean, does it really matter? He said, sir, वो 20 rupees, 20 रुपए के लिए कस्टमर निकल गए. 20 rupees? Are you joking? The Paragon is, say, Paragon and another brand. Paragon is 20 rupees. People are not going to pay 20 bucks. He's saying that's the challenge. You want to understand. 20 bucks for a guy who's probably a cab driver or a rickshaw driver, it's a lot of money. You know, for us, it's nothing. 20 bucks is like, it just falls from your pocket, you will not even notice. But for them, that 20 bucks could probably buy them half a kilo of onions or something like that. I'm just giving an example. So it's important. Um, those are the things that are, have to be understood, and where that consumer psyche has to be understood, and that's the challenge for me, has been a challenge, and I'm continuing to learn. I am in the process of learning how to reach out to those consumers, how to make our brand relevant to those consumers, and not just put fancy taglines, or like "Zid chalte rehne ki" or something of that sort. It's not just a fancy tagline. There is some meaning behind it. We are trying to uh, appeal to the aspirations of that consumer.
understood. I think I see a lot of people trying to tap into the Bharat audience, as a lot of folks say, and in the last 10 years, or let's say the last 15 years, you saw a lot of startups and new companies raising capital to become digital first, and some of those same companies are raising capital now to launch their stores. So I think, is that the case, that today, if you want to tap into a mass market in India and you have a consumer product, you need to be in retail?
Uh, you mean like physical retail versus digital? Is
Yes, correct.
so.
So if I, let's say, I'm creating a footwear brand, or if I'm creating an apparel brand and I want to tap into the mass market 100 to 500 rupee segment, Where should I sell?
Yeah, so while digital is obviously evolving and e-commerce is growing like leaps and bounds, um, I don't think, and I've been doing a lot of reading on this, and my personal experience is that I don't think physical retail is going anywhere. Um, you need to be present, and this is not just about the mass segment, the value segment. Value segment, of course, retail is extremely important because uh, a lot of those people, while of course e-commerce is growing, by leaps and bounds in small towns, tier two, tier three, tier four, rural markets, it's growing, no doubt, it is growing, but it is still a smaller percentage of your overall retail commerce, right? I mean, retail. If you look at the retail industry across categories,
Mm,
e-commerce is still a small percentage. It'll take some time, and even globally, even in developed markets like the Western world, maybe United States or whatever, e-commerce is still in a 25-30%, in terms of contribution to the overall business revenue of any company. In fact, the a classic case is Nike, which is currently, if you see, they are struggling uh, big time, majorly, because they ignored the brick and mortar retail and focused too much on digital commerce. So if that happens with Nike in a developed, highly developed market like United States, then India it will takes a lot of time because people value the touch and feel, and people value the experience. And it's not just I've seen this in Raymond also. I've seen this in Samsonite that people value the experience of going to a store and touch and feel. The couple of years of COVID was an exception because you had no choice. Okay, so that being said, coming back to your question, I would say that not just the value categories like ours, but even premium or mid premium categories, the physical retail will is important and will continue to play an important role. It's not a coincidence that Lenskart has launched physical stores. Neiman's has launched pop-up stores and physical stores, and make many like Pepper Fry. Pepper Fry has physical stores, right? While they, of course, they have a omni-channel business, but end of the day, you have to have some physical presence. It's important, and so definitely in a mass category like ours, physical plays a very important role. I'll give you an example. I've actually seen this, and this is the how the transaction takes place. Like people actually come. I saw this experience in a small retail outlet in I think it was Bangalore only, where somebody came in a bike. He said he called out to that guy and he said that chappal. Matlab, he was speaking Kannada. So, but I understood what he's like. So that fellow brought some two pairs because he knew which brand and what he wanted and etc. He removed his old chappals. He didn't get off the bike. Without getting off the bike, he removed his old chappals. He wore those new chappals all the while sitting on the bike. Okay, he took the money and maybe he probably used UPI or something to pay that guy, and he was off. And the old chappals were there, and that the store guy took the old chappals and they threw it in the bin. I mean, this is just maybe it might seem an extreme example, but that's typically a lot of our customers actually come to the stores. Our customers come to the stores, leave the old chappals behind, wear the new ones, and walk out.
mm,
So that physical aspect is and a lot of you guys are on the move. Okay, so just imagine a delivery boy or auto guy or a factory worker. How would they deal with e-commerce? They're never home. They're home only in the night. They only come home
yeah.
late at night to sleep, get ready in the morning, and they rush to work. So these are the challenges that they face. So especially in our category, physical retail plays a very important role.
Fascinating. I think that's a great story, and it's so good to hear like you are still at a level of CMO, you still do retail visits. So can you break down a retail visit for everybody? Like how often do you do it? How often should a marketer do it? And what are you really trying to observe?
Well, there's no benchmark as to how often you have to do it. The way I see it is that you can never you can never leave your marketing hat behind. It's not like leaving your mobile phone at home and say, "Chalo, yeah, now today I'm not a marketer. I'm just Shawn Chandy. I'm just going. it is always there, and it comes by default. You don't have to even take an effort. Like, to give you an example, when I even today, when I am at the airport, I'm standing at the conveyor belt waiting for my luggage. I observe every bag on the belt, because this is the thing which I should do in Samsonite. Like, oh, is this a Samsonite? Is it an American Tourister? Is it VIP? Is it Skybags? Just by default, when I look at people and I say, now I can't see what shirt you're wearing, but you're wearing a shirt, but I would not naturally observe, okay, which brand is this? And I try to observe the logo on your shirt, or what, or the dressing, the way you're dressed. This just has come naturally. Now my latest fascination with footwear, I keep
Yeah.
staring at people's feet, which I have to try to make it less awkward so that people don't think I have a foot fetish or something. But I end up like staring at their feet, like trying to understand. Okay, some things are very obvious, but and I get very thrilled, like, oh, I saw somebody wearing a Paragon chappal today. Uh, so that being said, so it's the point I'm trying to make is that you don't have to always go to a retail store. Of course, you need to do retail visits often enough, but you just have to be aware and curious. Again, that word curiosity comes back every day of your life, at every moment. Like, I was traveling with my family to Pondicherry. I was driving down, and I just happened to notice, that we are passing through villages, obviously, from Bangalore to, and there are a lot of villages that come in the way. And I was just noticing everybody who was walking on the road or in the market or on two wheelers or whatever, they were all wearing open footwear. I came back and told my team that, our markets, so it's basically in small towns, in tier two cities, in villages. That's where our market lies, because wherever you go, and this is across the country, especially in the
Yeah.
south, which is south, culturally they end up wearing a lot of open footwear, but even the west and other places, that they are more comfortable in chappals. This country, that's why we produce 4 lakh pairs a day. We produce 14 crore pairs in a year. Not all of
Wow.
them are chappals, but most of them are, and that's why, this country, and it's part of their day-to-day routine. So um basically, you need to be curious at every point of time. Do retail visits, yes, it's exceptionally important to go to the store, observe consumers. There are a lot of non-verbal cues you'll get by just observing, because your data, whether it's brand studies or any kind of research, etc., these are just figures on a screen. You need to see how the buying process works. So my advice to anybody who's watching it and is aspiring to be a marketeer would be that you data will only tell you so much. It's only when you stand in the store, silently observe the buying process and the decision making process, is when you would understand why something works, why something doesn't work. And that's why, sometimes I feel, and this is actually true of this kind of a small critique of advertising, is that many of the advertising creative guys, especially, who write scripts, who, develop campaigns, very few of them, at least in today's day, actually go and meet the consumer and understand this process. So it is the marketer's job. It is my job sitting here in this chair to educate them, and also to be like a kind of a, I would say that, kind of guide them as to, in what direction to go in. Because fine, I mean, I appreciate, I'm not a creative person. I can't write scripts, but at least I know how my consumer behaves, and what the decision making process is, and what his psyche is. And that's something that sometimes I feel is lacking. It used to be there. I think when I was in advertising, I used to see a lot of creative guys too, and definitely client servicing guys do a lot of market visits. I think that thing has died down. I mean, I don't see that anymore. I have to actually push my creative advertising team now, that please go to the market, please visit, please sit there, understand what a person is going through
Right.
when they are the whole when they are in the store. So that is critical.
And I think some great stories. Thank you so much for that. I feel, like you said, I think this shows why curiosity is important as a marketer. And I think I think people have become lazy to go outside generally. But now, though, I'm seeing people don't even want to do a call. Like they just want to do chat. The young guys, like people younger than me
Yeah,
also, like
calling.
call me.
Like they say, the calling is the fourth thing you do on your phone, right? The fourth in terms of priority. The like your phone is not no longer for calling.
Correct,
So
correct, exactly. So I'm so glad that you say this because even as an entrepreneur, I think talking and doing sales and just speaking to people gives you high quality data according to me. Everything else is very low quality data. It's like 4 items, 10 variables. You don't know what that means. Only when you speak is when you learn a lot more.
no, I
Um,
think definitely as a marketeer, while data is important, and you can't, I mean, you realize how important data is in when you as you grow up the ladder and as a marketeer. Um, but like communication, interaction with people physically is extremely important. You know, I actually don't like virtual meetings a lot. I'm not a big fan of virtual meetings. And obviously, you and I have to do this virtually, but typically, like when anyone calls me and says, "We'd like to meet you," I said, "Yeah, please, can you come physically to my office if it's not too much of a trouble?" And like, "Oh, acha, okay, okay, let us," So I like to I feel that personal one-on-one kind of interaction physically and as a marketer also, if you see, if you want to really understand your consumers, you have to go beyond data and you have to go out there, interact with them, talk to them as we are talking as a and connect with them,
mm.
not just as a marketer but as a human being, as a as a friend or a colleague.
I want to go back to the topic we were discussing, which is this retail and why in India that's such a big strategy. I think it's a lot to also do with I think the experience, but I want to see if it's comfortable, right? And it's so hard to understand if it's comfortable or not. But at the same time, you said e-commerce is growing rapidly, and I also feel that generally I think it's a very efficient way to transact. So if comfort is a USP, or if that's what you say, it's the most comfortable chappal out there, how do you articulate that and get an online sale?
That's an interesting question. See, comfort. Digitally, and I'm not just about footwear but even apparel. I spent a lot of time in I mean, my entire 11 years of my career was in apparel and the garments industry. So
Right.
even their comfort is important, right? I mean, while style, trends, fashion, etc. is critical, but if you're not comfortable in in the clothes you wear, you're not really going to be I don't think you'll prefer that brand. um, it's a challenge. It's definitely a major challenge for the entire fashion industry. Which fashion, and I include footwear in fashion. So footwear, garments, whatever, even innerwear for that matter. It's a big challenge because how do you and this cannot be done digitally, right? We have tried
Mm,
various things, like today you have various tools, measurement tools. So even when we sell footwear, we show, okay, you measure toe, from your foot and this and that. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that comes close to actually trying it out. So
mm,
what we encourage, our we have a very small online business at this point of time, but essentially it's about encouraging trials. And
mm.
as a consumer, once you try out something, like typically even with apparel brands, like you try out a couple of brands, you say, okay, this brand, this fit is great for me. So the next time you go online, you'll say you'll go to that particular brand and look for that particular fit. So whether it's
Right.
slim fit, super slim fit, relaxed, whatever, you know, in footwear also, you would know, like when you buy shoes, like maybe a Nike 11 number fits you, but if you go to Adidas, it may be a 11 and a half or maybe a 10 and a half, maybe.
Mm,
And 10 and a half is not a common size in India, but I'm just giving an example.
right.
Similarly, for Paragon, I mean, every company has a little bit of variation, and you have to see what works best for you. Uh, See, digital commerce is obviously growing rapidly, and but I think people have figured out, and thanks to easy returns and all that, people have figured out how to make it work for them. So once you try a particular brand, a particular size, you know what size works for you. So I bought a lot of shoes online. I told you my love for shoes. I bought a lot of them online uh, because I know now that this particular brand,
Yeah.
this particular size, this works for me. So it's easy for me to sing. And thanks to our great return policy, which is not very favorable to brands like us, with high returns doesn't is not profitable for us. But well, that's the price to pay for doing business online. You know.
I think it all comes down to, I think, CAC versus LTV, where I think, as you said, it really depends on, uh, like, the trials will have to happen ideally physically, but then the repeat is much more efficient online. So I think that resonates a lot with me. That could be a strategy a lot could use, perhaps. um, I want to now, just jump into the last few sections of our podcast. One is, I wanted to check with you on generally having celebrities and influencers in campaigns.
Yeah.
I know you've had folks like Hrithik Roshan, to even having campaigns with nobody or even influencers, right? So, um, why do you use a star? Why do you use an influencer? And why do you not need any of them? Because today I also see a lot of UGC content going pretty viral, organically, or just generally UGC content with a lot of paid media behind it as an ad also working pretty well. And it's like, instead of spending 100 rupees, you're spending 1 rupee on the actual ad, and then you're spending 99 on the media. So I see a lot of people chatting about this. So what's your general perspective on having like a known face in a campaign?
My personal opinion is that brands need to be very clear about why they're taking a celebrity and what purpose the celebrity is serving to the brand. Okay,
Hmm.
let me expand on that. So I was at Raymond. Raymond has, in fact, a strict policy of not taking celebrities. You will not see. I mean, as influencers and all that, we have worked with some celebrities, but as a brand ambassador, I think over the last almost 70, 80 years, like I don't know, it's a 100-year-old brand, but they have never used a celebrity. In fact, it's almost a mandate not to use a celebrity because Raymond is known enough. They don't need a celebrity to sell their brand. Paragon used celebrities for many years. So the last one, you're right, being Hrithik Roshan, we had him for 5 years. His contract ended before I joined the company, so there was a decision taken by the management that the contract, um, they they took a decision not to extend his contract, and they gave me I remember when I met them for the first time, they said that we'll let you take a decision on whether to have a celebrity or not.
Mm.
So I believe that okay, a brand like Paragon, and we have done enough studies to understand that Paragon has a high recall amongst the consumers.
Right.
Paragon. So, what does a celebrity bring to a brand like Paragon? If it's already got really high awareness, it's in the top three brands in terms of unaided recall, then what exactly is the celebrity bringing to the table?
Mm.
Because celebrity costs money, and I've seen too many cases. I would not to name them and put myself in trouble, but too many cases of brands taking on a celebrity and not doing anything with it. And there are examples in my own category, my competitors, some of them. I'm like, what are you doing with these guys? I mean, what is the
Mm.
purpose? Is it just a face? Because
Mm.
I don't believe that consumers would relate to stories, a relevant story, a lot better. It's not just a celebrity, you know. So just pasting Amitabh Bachchan or Hrithik Roshan or Shah Rukh Khan on your packaging or on posters is not going to sell the product.
Mm.
There are enough and more examples of brands being very successful without a celebrity,
Yeah.
or brands. And then my favorite example is Cred. They've not done advertising in a long time, but I love the way they use celebrities. I
Mm.
mean, they like there's those ads with Govinda, Madhuri Dixit. There was I think with Bappi Lahiri and
Yeah.
various like 80s Anil Kapoor and the way they use. I mean, it's just mind blowing. I was a big fan of the communication.
Yeah.
Because of the way they used it. Uh, I think you need to be a lot of introspection needs to be done in this regard. But I firmly believe that unless we are clear, a brand or an organization is clear about how they want to leverage that celebrity's popularity and connect with that particular TG, just taking on a celebrity to many a times, it's, I think it just makes us feel good. Oh, we have a celebrity endorsement. Um, for a new brand, it creates like a spike, right,
Right.
in uh, in your awareness, etc. Especially a new brand, and like for example, maybe a celebrity would be relevant for a brand of vase, like our brand with one of the brands is Ekin. Ekin is a new brand with very low awareness because of relatively new brand. Maybe I can't, but that we are. But for Paragon per se, uh, at this point of time, we don't feel the need for a celebrity. Uh,
Mm.
Influencers, another one interesting thing. Uh, to be honest, and I'll make a controversial statement. I don't know how much of effectiveness influencers actually bring to the table, especially the really big ones, like the mega influencers where you pay lakhs of rupees for one 30-second reel, and they get maybe a couple of billion views. I think it's again because we are not a D2C brand, we are largely an offline,
Mm.
distribution led brand. For us, influencers have uh, we have we have used influencers to build awareness, especially in regional markets. So we have done something with West Bengal, and during Pujo, or in Maharashtra during Ganpati. Those kind of, we have used regional influencers. They, because obviously they create interesting content which is relevant for their audiences, and that has kind of worked. Um, Beyond a point, there is a question mark, and I keep asking this to other marketeers that I know, that how much do influencers, especially celebrity influencers who charge big bucks, actually help your brand? Um, that I don't have an answer to that at this point in time.
I think, like you said, it's very important that you have like a digital first approch, and also the audience of the influencer is more important than the influencer themselves. I often feel,
Yeah,
where often I have seen people. Uh, I've seen, let's say, a woman's brand endorse a woman who has millions of followers on Instagram, who has 90% male followers. So that is where you got the strategy wrong. That is why you didn't see
yeah.
any uptick. So I often see that as a big challenge. So, but it's absolutely right. I think it really depends. I think at what stage of your product is, and I think it's always better in terms of top of mind if you have a known face for a young company. But once it's matured, maybe it all comes down to just brag value to a point. So
Yeah, I mean, consumers, at some, I mean, they understand, they're smart enough to know the value of your, what you bring to the
yeah,
table as a brand and as a product. Like,
right,
especially our consumers are very discerning. Like I told you, 20 rupees makes a lot of difference. So
correct,
even if they pay you 20 rupees, even if they pay you 20 rupees additional extra over and above your competitor, they're paying for a certain value. And just because you put Hrithik Roshan on your packaging doesn't mean that you can charge 20 bucks extra, or you have to give
right.
them some value in terms of the product and service.
Got it. Makes sense. I want to now ask you a question around working with agencies. You've been in an agency, and I'm assuming you've worked with quite a few agencies. In
Only
your
two.
career, I'm sure only two.
Only two agencies
I mean, as the client,
as a
like
client.
when you were
Okay,
in,
okay, okay. As a client.
where you also worked as the client,
Okay.
and I think we represent a network of a lot of creative founders as well as freelancers, and they all have boutique agencies. What, according to you, differentiates a great agency from a good agency?
I think a great agency would actually try to solve a business problem for me. So I've not been head of marketing. I've just my I've been head of marketing for a certain period of time, but earlier, so currently in my current role, I could actually make decisions about which agencies to bring on board. Prior to this, we were just told you have to work with XYZ agency. So what I would say is that a great. So again, I repeat myself. A great agency is somebody who would actually solve a business problem, not just a marketing problem, and or just make great creative, or if it's a media agency, just deliver certain reach and frequency or GRP or whatever. They would actually take the trouble to delve a little deeper into and scratch below the surface and try and understand how they can help me deliver results,
Mm.
and value to the company, to the organization at large.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, the biggest difference between being in an agency and being a marketeer, and which I've learned the very hard way, is that in an agency your plan could deliver X. You said you will deliver 300 GRPs, and you deliver 350 GRP, and you say, "Oh, great, मैंने कर दिया," and pat on the back, and you'll ask the client, give us 5 rating for and apply for awards, etc. But for the client, for the guy on the other side, what's important is that what did that 350 GRP or whatever X GRP deliver for them as a business?
Right.
If it has not solved a certain problem or delivered on the objectives of the business, then it's actually no point. For the marketeer or for the head of marketing or for the brand team, it is okay. We did good because, especially in my current role. So I now deal. I report to the promoters of the company. I deal with them on a day-to-day basis. It's very clear, but what impact is your campaign delivering to the business? Because this is the P&L. Is it helping the P&L? If not, then why should we spend money? Simple questions, and these type questions are asked to at the CXO level, which you have to have answers to. So a
Right.
great agency will go beyond. I'm not saying they should be directly responsible for driving revenues. That's not the point.
Yeah.
I mean, they are not a sales team. They are after all an advertising agency or a media agency or whatever. But understanding the problem, trying to come out with solutions which will help address that problem, go beyond just your creative mandate or your media mandate or digital mandate, is something that a great agency does. A good agency will give you good creative, decent reach, frequency, and whatever, and just transaction like business. Okay, you told me this. This is your brief. I have delivered this. That's it. So that's my 2 bits on that.
Absolutely agree with you. I think this will be very helpful to everybody who's tuned in. I constantly say this, that you don't have to promise these results. It's not like you have to deliver them, but talk from that lens, think from that lens. Then you'll get a lot of respect, and they'll actually pick you over anybody else, because quality is subjective. So while you can keep on getting better and hire good people in your team, you have to really become amazing and understanding what's the CMO's priority and how am I able to articulate that. So I think that's some great advice there.
Actually, to
Um,
be fair, many agencies are talking this language. It's not that they aren't, because they also understand. See, today creating content is not that difficult. Okay,
mm,
I mean there are so many tools available, and AI is making it making it easier to create good
yeah.
content. So agencies also understand that at some level, that we cannot just be creating, doing one shoot, spending 2 crores on creating one nice TVC, and then putting it on TV. That's not this thing. So they also understand that content can be created in different ways, and and I don't need to rely on creative agencies or media agencies nowadays. It can be done. So that's the additional value. You have to solve the problem for the business, and I think they understand that. And at least the smart ones are moving in that direction.
Great. I think this brings me to the last question, and it's kind of a repeated question because you've been giving advice in the entire podcast. But if I'm somebody who's a young marketer, I want to become a CMO one day. What's your advice to those folks?
Advice to folks. Okay. Well, I'll also repeat, because this is a common theme, I think, for today's this thing, um, is that, you know, I think you have to learn how to if you want to become a successful marketeer, and I'm not saying I'm a successful marketer, but if you want to become achieve some kind of success in marketing, then communication, understanding how communication works, understanding how to connect with your audience, your target audience, and is extremely critical. And don't just look at them as a target audience. There was this interesting, and later somebody said that sometimes when you say target audience, it's almost as if there's some person running with a target on his back, and we have one bow and arrow or a gun to shoot that person. um, you have to humanize the consumer. You have to humanize because we are consumers too, right? So I use a simple yardstick to understand to when I think of marketing strategies, etc. I put myself, I try to put myself in that person's shoes, or try to think of it as a consumer myself, as to how I'll approach this problem, or how the consumer would see it. Does it make sense to me? Does it connect at a very like a basic level, emotional level, and go beyond the superficial? You know, um, only I'm of course data is important, but I am not a believer of just looking at numbers on a screen and taking decisions, marketing decisions, strategic decisions, just by looking numbers and putting it on fancy PPTs and presenting it to the management. Um, I you need to solve a like we're talking about agencies solving a problem of the client. You need to solve a
Yeah.
problem in the consumer's life. Maybe as a young marketeer, a person who's just starting out, you might say, "Arey yaar, ye sab main kya karu? I'm just doing what my boss tells me. He'll tell me do this, I have to do it." But if you start training
Right.
yourself, developing that kind of attitude, and that trying to develop your instinct from a very early age, and go beyond the obvious,
Mm.
even if maybe you're not appreciated in your initial couple of jobs, where somebody might have, yeah, you keep quiet, let you do what I'm telling you to do. But if you start developing that attitude of what I just mentioned, and you develop a certain instinct, and it will really help when you go to a senior level, because one day that person who's today maybe an assistant manager will probably become a CMO, and at that point of time it will really help to know these things, and that training will really help. That's what I believe.
Fantastic. I think thank you so much for articulating all and repeating a bunch of those crucial points. This marks the end of the podcast, Sean. I hope you had fun.
Yes, yes, absolutely, it was great. I'm glad we finally could do this, and it was a great
Of course,
experience. You know,
of course.
kind of makes me also think. So and
I'm
jogged my
glad. I'm glad I
memory,
could do
and
that.
yeah,
Yeah, I know it was great. I think a lot of funny scenarios also you shared, and a lot of personal experiences. So thanks a lot. It was great hearing that. And for everybody who's stuck along, if you'd like to hear another fantastic marketing leader, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll have another episode coming out very very soon. Thank you.